Recording in progress. Recording stopped. In progress.
Good evening. It being 7 o'clock and a quorum present, I'm going to call the Planning Board meeting for November 13th to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 29, 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote and in-person participation. Information regarding participation by members of the public is available on the town's website. I'm going to start this evening on our first item on our agenda, which is administrative notes, and beginning with minutes. And we have minutes for September 11, 2024, and September 25, 2024. Do I have any comments, changes, or corrections to either of these minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for one or both.
Motion to approve both?
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? As Mr. Donaldson is remote, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Donaldson on the minutes?
Yes.
Mr. Bent?
Yes.
Mr. Grandy?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Next on our agenda are covenants, plans, and releases. We have a lot release for lots 6A1, 6A2, and 6A3, Long Ridge Road in the Pine Hills. Any questions or comments from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to release.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Grandy?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Next on our agenda, I have Form A plans, A4887, Matthew and Cynthia Arpin, lot line adjustment, map 050, lot 015. Mr. Bennett, you are recusing yourself from this matter?
Recuse, yes, thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the board?
None.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve A4887.
I have a motion. Mr. Donaldson, second? Okay. Discussion? Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Grandy?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Announcements. The Master Plan Committee continues its series of listening sessions and public forums in order to gather information and sentiment from the community regarding the future of Plymouth. The next of those that are coming up is we have a listening session on Monday, November 18th in North Plymouth. That's being held at Cold Spring Elementary, starting at 6 p.m. Again, all are welcome. And on Wednesday, November 20th, we'll have the next of our forums. That is on land use, housing, and transportation. That will be held at the Plymouth South Middle School, also starting at 6 p.m. And again, all are welcome and encouraged to attend. The community input is essential to creating a plan for Plymouth's future that represents and reflects the community's ideas and goals. Any other announcements from members of the board?
Sure.
Seeing none, let's move on to our next item on our agenda. We have the Cedarville Steering Committee appointment. I believe we have one open position on the Cedarville Steering Committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, we have 3 applicants who have applied, and they have all submitted their resumes and/or applications and/or other letters, so we can operate based on that. Let me ask first, is Mr. O'Neill present in the room or on Zoom?
Neither.
Okay. How about Mr. Bennett?
Not present.
Okay. And Mr. Sorensi?
He is here.
Mr. Sorensi, if you'd like to step up to the microphone. Good evening, and thank you for coming out.
You're welcome.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the Cedarville Steering Committee?
I sent a letter of interest. I don't know if you saw that, and I can pretty much repeat what I had said in that. I lived in Plymouth for 19 years now, in Kingsbridge Shores in Cedarville. I've been retired for 3 years. My profession before that, I was a project manager in coordination of construction for a telecom company in Marshfield. I was also a civil engineer for 25 years. More recently, I just do a lot of volunteer work. I'm involved with Mass Fallen Heroes. I'm a big brother for a young 13-year-old boy in Plymouth. I've been doing that for a number of years. Before that, I was very involved with American Red Cross and also with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. And also prior to that, I'd say back in the 80s, I was involved, when I lived in Duxbury, I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I was the chairman for a number of years. And that's a quick resume of me.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to the board to see if they have any questions. Mr. Grandy?
Through the chair, I don't have any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Grandy. Mr. Bennett?
Likewise, no questions.
Mr. Donaldson?
I have no questions.
My only question, have you attended any of the Cedarville Steering Committee meetings?
I have only attended the last one because it was very involved. I'm very concerned about, curious about what's going on with the Sagamore Bridge because it's going to impact, as we all know, State Road. I've gone to one before that, but I plan on going to, whether I'm on the board or not, I plan on going to future ones because I want to get involved in what's going on in Cedarville especially.
Okay. So what is your understanding as to what the Cedarville Steering Committee does?
I'm sorry?
What is your understanding as to what the Cedarville Steering Committee does?
I think what they do is basically they somewhat, let's call it for lack of a better word, control the development in the direction of Cedarville and for the future growth of it with some control to it, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
I believe Mr. O'Neill. You're Mr. Oh, okay. That's later on, okay. Do we have either Mr. O'Neill or Mr. Bennett joining us yet?
We do not.
We do not, okay. So at this point, we have one person in the room, but we have 3 applicants, all who have submitted their paperwork, and we're capable of addressing that. Anyway, any discussions, comments, or questions from members of the board?
I see this is only up until June of 2025.
That's the information that was presented to us by
So-
our administrative staff.
So it's only an 8-month appointment, 7-month appointment.
If you wanted to make that 1 year, we could make that recommendation.
It's up to the board how
Well,
they feel.
I think the position is the position.
Yeah.
We're not really capable of changing the
Right.
term of the
I was just
position.
wanted to make it clear that it's only a 7 or 8-month position. You'll have to reapply again,
Yes.
right?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Grandy, for pointing that out. Very helpful. Okay, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold a vote on, we'll hold a vote on all the candidates. Everybody obviously gets votes, so, and I'll do it as a roll call vote. So those in favor, so for Tim O'Neill, applicant, yay or nay. Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Grandy?
Yes.
And myself, yes, so that's a unanimous vote. On Mr. Bennett, Mr. Donaldson,
No.
No.
Mr. Grandy?
Unfortunately, no, but please pay attention when positions are open to reapply.
I'm also a no, but for the simple reason that, while I appreciate Mr. Bennett's application, he doesn't live in Cedarville, and we certainly want to favor Cedarville residents for the Cedarville Steering Committee. And for Mr. Sorensi, Mr. Grandy?
Again, we only have one position to appoint, and my answer would be no, and I apologize for not having 2 or 3 positions available. But please, sir, come to the Cedarville Steering Committee meetings, and I know there's always a position open sooner or later on the Cedarville most steering committees. So appreciate you even applying, and thank you.
Positions are actually advertised on the town website. We let people know that every position, especially those that are appointed by the planning board, we let them know. And we also make announcements here at the planning board meetings itself. We'll also announce to people when we're aware of those meetings. Mr. Bennett?
No.
Mr. Donaldson?
No.
And myself, no. So we have voted to appoint Mr. O'Neill to the Cedarville Steering Committee for the remaining term that's open. Please contact Mr. O'Neill and make sure that he gets sworn in. And again, as we have others and other positions available in other committees, please, for those who volunteer, we greatly appreciate everyone's efforts to be part of the town government, and we encourage them to continue to apply. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. Next on our agenda tonight, we have ZBA 4139, 402 Court Street. Robert Bocon, special permit required per section 205-9 and use table A3 to convert an existing 2-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling. The planning board is advisory to the ZBA on this matter. Good evening.
Good evening.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Robert Bocon, lifetime Plymouth resident. I've owned that property in particular 30 years or something. Actually, I've lived there much longer than I owned it. But, so pretty simple, you know, kind of going with the sort of essence of this whole ADU sort of a deal. Putting a little Laverne and Shirley apartment in the basement. It should be cut and dry. There's not a lot of impact on anything as far as it's like 3 or 4 partition walls. Checked with water and sewer, went through all that process, and that should be fine. I've got a new 1-inch water line, fairly new, you know what I mean? It's the old one was lead, you know, so this one is new comparatively speaking. And the only issue that really has come up so far, other than any sort of building stuff, which would be outside of this room, is parking. So we looked at, you know, obviously to do it to code, you'd have to have a turnaround, and the lots in North Plymouth just wouldn't facilitate that. So it's my understanding I pay a one-time fee into the Plymouth Parking Fund to, you know, add to that aggregate so the town has more parking elsewhere. I don't think it'll make a huge difference. There's plenty of street parking anyway, you know what I mean? So apparently that's the only issue would be just this parking situation. That's my understanding.
Great, thank you. I'll refer it to staff first.
Thank you. Yes, as Mr. Bocon said, they're looking to, it's an existing 2-family dwelling. They'd like to add a 3rd unit to that by placing a basement apartment unit at the basement floor. This did receive comment by engineering indicating that typically a street opening permit would be required. They also recommended evaluation of site improvement to see if any on-site parking could be accommodated. We received comments from fire that per code, state code, residential sprinklers for fire suppression will be required in units that have 3 or more residential units. And also, as with any residential unit, they're stating that street numbers and addresses must be displayed on the buildings. So really, as you heard, the petitioner is proposing to make a payment into the North Plymouth Parking Fund. The payment for 1 space would be $1,500. The North Plymouth Parking Fund currently has a balance of $2,960. So staff is recommending that this special permit be granted, as this is in the transitional commercial district in North Plymouth. It is consistent with the intent of that zone. This proposed a three-family dwelling would be appropriate to this district and maintaining the mix of residential uses as this zone intends. There would be no hazard or pedestrians and vehicles or circulation impacts, and no nuisance to the neighborhood. It is stated that typically in the application material, according to the petitioner, the driveway is capable of housing 4 cars and typically 3 are actually parked there. On-street parking is also available in the area, so staff finds that a payment in lieu of parking would be appropriate if the board is willing to make that recommendation to the zoning board.
Thank you. Question, the parking fund, what is that used for?
It can be used for parking improvements. There was, in recent years, one of the parking lots that is in North Plymouth was paid for through the parking fund, so it can be used for maintenance and improvements to parking lots that are available.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm going to open it up to the board for any questions. Mr. Bennett?
Good evening, Mr. Balkan.
Good evening.
This is a residential property, right? You're not operating a business out of this?
No. Actually, it is the legal business address for my electrical and HVAC company, but only because that's my residence.
Okay, but you don't run the business out of there?
No.
Okay,
No trucks, no dumpsters, no construction crews, none of that.
okay. And I do have to say that I'm a little concerned about the parking. If you're going to have 3 units in there, you've got, in reality, 2 spaces next to the house, unless you have people agree to shuffle their cars around? Is that...
Well, it's a family situation, so where you have a multi-level like that. Upstairs is a 1-bedroom. There's 2 gray kids living there. They park behind each other.
I see.
I'm in the main floor, which is a 3-bedroom, but really it's me and my dog. So, but even if I moved out again, it's going to be a family situation, and we're only talking about adding, you know, like I said, in the spirit of this ADU law, instead of proposing to the town that I build a giant tower or rip down Benny's, and I just trying to put 1 little bedroom apartment down there, a little convenient space, and probably rent it to somebody that I know well. You know what I mean?
I totally understand. Just wanted to hear some
And
more
you know,
information.
while I understand this is in perpetuity, the house if it sells or something like that, that has to be relevant to the town. But I've been there 30 years. I ain't going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Well, I do believe you are eminently qualified to determine whether the parking is a nuisance for the residents or not then. So, no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donaldson?
The questions I wanted to raise was in regards to the family, if there's going to be family members or not, and that was answered with Mr. Bennett's questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grandy?
Yes, through the chair. In the fire department's response, do you already have a residential sprinkler system in the building?
No, that's another issue, but we're doing this one step at a time. If I have approval from the town, then we'll go to the next step, which would be $10,000 for, and I'm already $5,000 into this for a site survey. It's another 10 grand just to get the drawing and the flow test for the potential sprinklers. So, you know, obviously we have to meet approval with the town, we're going one step at a time.
So, but you definitely plan on putting in a sprinkler system if the project is approved?
I would be the poster child for that, the first one and only on that building code. So no, I don't think it's fair to add $100,000 to $80,000 to $100,000 onto this project that's gonna cost 30, 40 grand just to have and you know, obviously I'm a master electrician, I'm gonna have full smoke detectors, so we'll address that as it is. And if that's the situation, you know, if those are the rules and then we have to comply, I'm here to comply, you know. I think that we all can kind of tongue-in-cheek say there's many, all over the state of Massachusetts, little basement apartments that nobody's standing in front of the planning board to try and do legitimately. So do I think it's fair that it's $100,000, $80,000 to $100,000 on top of that? Well, I'll address that as we go.
So
But
you
right
tell
now,
me-
the main question is the parking, and I think it's a reasonable ask of the town, you know, especially if I pay into the parking fee, the parking fund.
So you're informing this board that it costs $100,000 to put
My
a
rough
sprinkler
estimate-
system into this particular building?
Absolutely. It was between $80,000 to $100,000. Just the drawing, just the flow test is $9,500.
Yet the fire department is it saying that it's mandated?
It's building code, which I just, it was historically speaking, guys, on the sidebar here, 3 families, three units or more, new construction. Apparently 9th edition code, they changed it to 3 families. I don't know how I'm gonna do that in a 150-year-old house. Plaster and lath and whatnot, but again, we're going baby steps here. I want to do things legitimately. I'm a citizen of this town, I'm proud of where I live, and I don't want to have an illegal apartment, And I see them all the time in my field of work. That's not my game, or my goal here. My goal here is to do everything 100% legitimate and above board.
Well, thank you.
Which I actually believe you are the board I'm speaking of.
What?
Above board, I think that means the board.
Above board.
that you sit on.
Oh! Okay, sorry, I was a little slow on that one.
Well, I just kind of realized that as I said it.
All right, well, I have to take the fire department's determination into consideration, but thank you for your honest answer.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that that isn't plausible. We're gonna go at that at step. This could increase the value of the property, and frankly, the property could justify that cost.
Are
Do
you
know what I
also
mean?
going to have an engineer quickly look at the lot for a potential 4th spot?
We did, from the person who drew the drawings for the architectural prints for the site survey, and he's vastly familiar because they're doing parking lots for auto dealerships and things like that. And it doesn't have the required square footage for a full turnaround for that many cars. Do you know what I mean? For, would be 5 total, I believe, so.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's not a plausible thing in that lot size, and especially, I don't know if you know North Plymouth, there's the stone wall that goes the whole length of it, so we'd have to cut that. It was getting into a spot where we would just have a parking lot with a house on it, and it's not I don't think that's really in the spirit of what we want for our town either, So if paying into the parking fund, which will help in other areas of town, then I'm all for it, And as far as the sprinkler goes, I'm not, if that's the mandate and that's what must be done, it's not out of context. It can be done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Okay, at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the ZBA.
I have a motion to recommend. Do I have a second?
Second, and then we have comments afterwards, right?
Yes, okay, I have a motion, and a second. Further discussion. Mr. Donaldson, comments?
No comments.
Mr. Bennett?
No comments?
Mr. Grandy?
So in our advisory report, if I may ask, to the chair, it's going to include that we think the report received from engineering and the fire department should be taken into consideration, especially where they're mandating the fire and sprinkler system in the unit. It's pretty clear to me, the way I read it, that he's saying it's the law.
Excuse me.
I'm speaking right now,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry.
All right?
I just wanted to clarify one thing. I'll wait.
So I just want to ensure that that is taken into consideration in the vote, in the advisory report to the zoning board of appeals.
Mr. Bocon,
Thank you.
you wanted to add
Sorry, I
something?
didn't mean to interrupt, sir. They're saying the whole entire building must be sprinkled. So it's not just the one unit, it's all 3 units. So that's why the cost is so substantial compared to just doing 1 unit, because of course that would be a non-issue.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Yes, so it's clear. We're only making the recommendation regarding whether or not to recommend to the ZBA the additional unit on the lot. That's but obviously, we have no say over what the building code requires. And if the inspectional services and fire department determine that certain requirements are necessary, then those are the requirements as well. Those go above and beyond us. We have no authority to recommend to change those, alter them in any way. So yes, obviously, we've considered the requirement, and any recommendation that we will be making will be based upon full compliance with all of the code requirements as set forth by the other departments in the town. Any further questions or comments? Okay, on the motion to recommend to the ZBA, Mr. Grandy,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Bocon. Good luck. Next on our agenda this evening, I have ZBA 4141, which is 163A Herring Pond Road. James and Kathleen Dubois, or Dubois, I apologize for not knowing the pronunciation. Special permit required per section 203-9C to expand or alter a pre-existing non-conforming use and structure to construct an addition on a lot with more than one single-family dwelling. Good evening. Would you come on up and introduce yourself?
My name is Jeannie Curran, and I work with Mr. and Mrs. Dubois. So I'm going to give you a little backstory on this situation because I think that will help. So in the Depression, Mr. Dubois' father bought their lot, the one to the right, the one to the left. And I think he said he got it for $1,000. You know, this is like beautiful right on Herring Pond. And his dad then built all these little cottages on all this land and made money to support his family. And in the end, their mom died. And then as he got older, he subdivided it and left a chunk to each child. So the lot they inherited, Jim and Kathy, has 2 cottages. There's one that's closest to actual Herring Pond, which is a little tiny thing, and then there's one closest to the pond. And that's the one that they would like to renovate. They have, Jim just sold the family business and is retired, and they have moved into this tiny little, beautiful view, but tiny. And the benefits of it is that they're going to be able to retire there and live there, which is a place where Jim grew up. And keeping with, they're like not just knocking it down, they're just taking down 2 walls, sorry. Enlarging a space to grow their bedroom that they already have with a master bathroom and closet. And off the back, it's like 12 feet by 22 feet to extend their living space, to enlarge the kitchen and family area. And then a sunroom and a covered porch. Do you have the file? So you know what I'm talking about, okay?
We do,
sorry.
yes.
So they went through conservation, that got cleared. And, you know, in keeping, you know, understanding that, you know, they need a special permit because of the fact that, I'm assuming based on the size of the actual lot it is, they have 2 houses on it, which is probably not something that anybody who walks in right now can just build 2 houses on a lot. So, that's basically pretty much it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any
Just-
questions?
Well, we're going to refer it to staff first, and
Okay.
then we'll come back to you with questions after we hear what our staff has to
Okay.
say.
Thank you. So this has been referred by the Inspectional Services Department to the Zoning Board for a special permit to expand or alter a pre-existing non-conforming use and structure to construct an addition on a lot with more than one single-family dwelling. The property was also subject to, in 2001, was subject to a ZBA case number 3019. It granted a variance for the building for the frontage and variance for allowing more than one principal dwelling on a lot. The case then allowed for the creation of 3 lots. The decision noted that there were 2 dwellings on this lot as well as 2 dwellings on a second lot. And there is a condition of approval that stated that there will only be 1 year-round dwelling per lot. So, as required in that case, we are recommending in a condition of approval that the petitioner will confirm that only one of the dwelling units is a year-round dwelling. That would be provided to the Inspectional Services Department upon further permitting. In addition, so this property already has, each of the units on the property has 2 bedrooms. So it's a total of 4 bedrooms on the property. The Board of Health has given us notice that given the size of the property and per Title V requirements, the maximum bedroom count is 3 bedrooms combined for both of these structures. So while ultimately staff does recommend that the special permit be granted because they're not adding any additional bedrooms from what they already have, we are recommending that there be a condition added that states that they'll need to satisfy the Board of Health comments on this, whether they need to seek a waiver or whatever that path may be, that will be determined by the Board of Health. I will also note that they are already going before the Board of Health because this property is serviced by a cesspool, which is an automatic failure. So in order to meet Title V requirements, they'll need to have a compliant septic system, which per the application material we have that there is a design pending. So they will be going to the Board of Health for that matter, and we would recommend further discussion with the Board of Health to rectify the bedroom count situation there. In addition, there are some comments raised by the Department of Public Works that we are recommending would be a condition of approval in order to rectify this. And those would be, the applicant would like, the Department of Public Works would like the applicant to show the existing well location on the plans, to show proposed grading for the additions and additional garage underneath the structures, that the applicant provide roof drain dry wells for the proposed additions, that the applicant stabilize 2 existing gravel driveways and aprons to prevent sediment debris accumulation in Herring Pond Road, and then lastly a note that a street opening permit may be required, as with most projects. That concludes my report for you.
Thank you, Ms. Lind. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions. Mr. Bennett.
So, question for Lauren, you said that this already has a new septic design in progress pending with Board of Health?
Pending, as I don't have a copy of that, but we were noted in the application material that that design was pending.
Okay. And so, this looks like there's 2 houses that are sort of year-round dwellings on there.
No, no.
Okay.
One is a cottage that has nothing. I mean, it has water and electric, but it's not heated. It's, nothing like that. And it's
That's the one they're not adding on to?
correct.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
now I understand.
And then the one that they're adding on to, I'm sure at some point they use that as a bedroom, but it is a very small room, which is, right now has a washer and dryer in it, so, which is going to be an office / laundry closet. Sorry, I'm talking too loud.
I'm not sure if it's me or you.
So,
Okay,
yeah, we had gotten all those, so we're in understanding of the, the septic having to,
okay, yeah, I'm satisfied that the Board of Health will handle the septic issue and the number of bedrooms issue. So I have no other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Donaldson? Hang on, Carl. We're adjusting. We can't hear you. There's a technical issue here. Could just barely hear you.
I have no questions.
Okay. Thank you. I heard that part. Thank you, Carl.
What song was that?
I don't know. Mr. Grandy.
How many notes? Yeah, it takes more than 2 notes to name that tune. No, staff's done a real good job of covering any questions that I would have had, and with the conditions that they are suggesting, along with the conditions that are in the report in front of me, so I have no questions.
Thank you. So the other house, the one that's not insulated, and is that being used at all?
in the summertime.
Okay, how is that used in the summertime?
They have 2 children, and they come on the weekends to go on the boat.
Okay.
Yeah. excuse me, nobody lives.
Please, no, that's quite all right.
It's not a place where anybody lives. Like year-round.
Yeah. Unfortunately, what we have is a situation in which when we get these decisions make statements like it can't be used as a year-round residence, but that's not really defined anywhere. So I would recommend that in any proposal, we define what is meant by year-round or seasonal by limiting the number of months or the time frame during which occupancy can occur. So that's something I would say, for example, again, since it's typically, don't want to overly impinge, but I would, say, for example, that it can't be used for more than 7, or 8 months a year at least. So make it a 3-season, but it can't be used for more than 8 months for the year. And in terms of the number of bedrooms, obviously that's something you'll have to work with because the definition of bedroom doesn't mean you're using it necessarily to sleep in, so it's...
Yeah, she gave me a size that actually makes it, everybody's like, oh, it doesn't have a closet. No. But it's very small.
Right.
Yeah.
I do understand. So obviously that's a design issue that you'll have to deal with the Board of
Yeah,
Health, but
yeah.
that's, again...
I made them aware of it. Yeah.
Very good. All right. I have no further questions, so thank you. Any further questions from the board? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend to the Zoning Board of Appeals approval with all the notes and conditions that have been discussed this evening.
Okay. And I'm going to say, does that include my request for an
Yes.
8-month limitation? Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Grandy?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes?
Mr. Donaldson? Yes. And myself, yes. Thank you very much. Good luck to your
I
clients.
have my work cut out for me.
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much.
That concludes our agenda for this evening. Under other business, is there any other business? And included in that, I'm going to ask, does anyone have any request or issue to discuss any of the things that are in the letters that were provided to us as part of our packet? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion.
Second?
Okay. Mr. Donaldson? Yes. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Grandy?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.